Hey everyone, it's Madam May. I hope you're having an awesome day today. So, we are going to be learning about similes and metaphors today, which are two poetic devices that is used when you want to really bring out some imagery in your poem. These help compare two things together, and then they connect it with some words. So, I'm going to explain it a little bit. A simile uses like or as to compare things. So it is a figure of speech that makes a comparison. It is a statement that one thing is like or as another thing. A simile can be used as a poetic device, okay? And this really is awesome because you can really imagine it in your head when you compare two things to something, okay? So for example, here's this poem called JoJo. So my dog Jojo is as much fun as my best friend. So the two things it's comparing are my dog Jojo and my best friend. But what are we describing about those two things? And how are we connecting those two things and comparing them? Well, here it says my dog Jojo is as much fun as my best friend. So they're saying that their dog Jojo is super fun, right? Just like your best friend. So you can really imagine that, right? Make a connection too with yourself. Like imagine your best friend, you're having fun, you're doing really awesome things with each other and you're playing, you're doing all these things. And that's how she's comparing her dog, Jojo. So you can really picture that in your head. The next sentence says, she runs as fast as my sister. Okay, so she runs, so her running, imagine her running, woo, 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 the dog's running as fast as my sister. So we just have to assume that maybe her sister runs really fast. She's on the track team, she runs awesome fast, like really, really fast, always first place. And the two words that she uses are as in between. So remember, a simile uses like or as to compare things. So here she uses as to connect it, okay? The next sentence says, she barks as loud as a car horn. Whoa, car horns are really, really loud. So the two things she's comparing are she barks and a car horn. And how does she bark? As loud as a car horn, okay? So she barks as loud as a car horn. Whoa, I can really imagine that. And they use the word as to help with that. So I know it's a simile because similes use like or as, okay? The next sentence, but when she finally rests, sometimes in poems, not every sentence needs to have a simile or metaphor or poetic device, but it does describe something, right? But when she finally rests, Jojo comforts me like a warm blanket. Okay, so it's a simile because they're using the word like, and the two things they're comparing are Jojo comforting her and it's like a warm blanket. And I can really imagine that in my head, right? She's comforting me like a warm blanket, meaning she's really awesome. She's comforting me a lot. So those are the reasons. So those are the things that similes do. They really try to help you imagine or put yourself in that place by using those two words. So that's super important, like and as to compare. Okay, now with metaphor. Now metaphor is a little more abstract, okay? So we're gonna go to metaphor, the metaphor slide here. So it's like a direct comparison. So it's another figure of speech that makes a comparison without the use of like or as, okay? So a word or phrase that usually means one thing is used to describe a different object. A metaphor can be used as a poetic device. So metaphor does not use like or as, but it compares to something else. And sometimes it might not make total sense, and you'll be like, what? That makes absolutely no sense. But it's a poetic device, so you can try to imagine it. So for example, in the poem Skyscraper, it says, the building is a giant, okay? So the two things that it's comparing is the building and giant, okay? So the building is a giant, all right? Is it actually a giant? No, but we're gonna compare it to being a giant. Okay. Something that I tell a lot of my students is when I create a metaphor, I usually think something is something. okay? We're not using the words like or as, but we can use the word is or are, things like that. So the building is a giant. So it is something, okay? So let's try the next sentence. All right, so the two things it's comparing here, let's see. A monster built with beams of steel. A monster built with beams of steel. So it's still comparing. It's saying it's the building is a monster, right? So it's comparing those two things. It's not as clear here, but let's go on to the next sentence, okay? Its bricks are hard rocks climbing, reaching up. So it's bricks, so the bricks, and we're comparing it to hard rocks, okay? And the word in between it is are, okay? Its bricks are hard rocks, all right? So its bricks are hard rocks. We're not saying its bricks are like hard rocks, because if we use the word like, that would be a simile. We get rid of the word like, and its bricks are hard rocks. Now, I know it sounds kind of interesting, but you can really imagine, oh my gosh, the bricks are hard rocks. They're actually hard rocks. So that's kind of what the metaphor does in that sentence. Let's take a look at the next sentence. It says, a mountain against the sky. So it's not comparing something else in this, but it is talking about how the building is basically a mountain. Okay, so the building is a mountain. So that's kind of the gist of what a simile and a metaphor does. So remember, with a simile, it only uses like or as, and it compares two things. And a metaphor generally just doesn't use like or as at all. But I often tell my students, make sure, sometimes and often does this, it uses the word is or are to compare two things. The building is a giant. Its bricks are hard rocks. So it's using that kind of a language, okay? We're going to take a look at some examples. So for these examples, I'm actually going to have you pause the video when I ask you to pause to try to figure it out for yourself. So here's some examples of similes and metaphors, all right? And the first sentence is, the storm is like a roaring lion. Now pause the video and think. All right, the storm is like a roaring lion. All right, is that a simile or a metaphor? Well, I know similes use like or as, and in this sentence it says the two things it's comparing is the storm and a roaring lion. I can really visualize that. So the storm is like a roaring lion, and it uses the word like. So I'm going to put an S because I know that's a simile. All right, let's do the next one. Clouds as dark as shadows hang low. So the two things that are comparing here, think about it. What are the two things? And then what is it? Is it a simile or is it a metaphor? Go ahead and pause the video and think about it. All right, so the two things it's comparing are clouds and shadows that are hanging low. Okay, my drawing skills are still not that great. All right, clouds and shadows, and they're saying they're as dark as shadows. So as, and I know that would be a simile. Okay, awesome, and I can really picture it in my head. All right, let's do the next one. Heavy rain is a curtain of water. Okay, so pause the video. Is it a simile? Is it a metaphor? Let's find out. So the two things that they're comparing are, well, they're saying heavy rain is a curtain of water. So it's comparing the rain to a curtain of water, okay? Is it using the like or as? Nope, but it's definitely using, okay, so heavy rain is a curtain of water. Something, so heavy rain is something. So that would be a metaphor. They're not using like or as, but they're comparing two things, okay? And they're using the word is, which is a good little hint, right? Let's do the next two, but I want you to try to do these by yourselves. And so pause the video and then I'll give you the answer. All right, go ahead. Okay, so the thunder is a booming bass drum would be a metaphor. All right, and when the storm ends, I jump in puddles like a happy frog, and that would be a simile. It uses like here to compare, and here it's comparing two things, connecting it with is. All right, so today for your activity, and I'm gonna move my little video over here again. You are actually gonna go in your English folder in Schoology and read this awesome poem about spring picnics, all right? And you're gonna identify two similes from this poem, okay? So the two similes, and then you're gonna explain the meaning of those similes, all right? So what does that simile mean, all right? And then the next one is you're gonna identify two metaphors from the poem above and explain their meaning as well, all right? And the last thing is, what is the meaning, so like the subject of the poem? How do similes and metaphors support this meaning? And I already kind of started the two sentences for you. You just gotta fill out the rest, okay? So make sure you read this and remember how to identify a simile and how to identify a metaphor. If you need to, take a look at the brain pop and this video all over again to help you out, okay? And then you're going to identify those similes and identify those metaphors and then explain their meaning. So by that I mean, so if we take a look here, the storm is like a roaring lion. We said it was a simile because of like, and we're saying that the storm must be really intense because it's like a roaring lion, so it must be super intense. So what do you kind of imagine or visualize when you're reading that poem? So you're going to do that when you're working on this. All right, have fun with the poems. Remember, email us if you have any questions. All right, have a great day.